Sony Xperia Z2 is the newest Sony smartphone that will go straight to the top. This time Sony made no big mistakes and this phone really rocks. Z2 is not alone, there are a lot of great devices going live on the market, so the competition is strong. But Sony succeeded and this phone can sit on the throne of Samsung Galaxy Note 3. It's been a long time since the last time we saw a Sony device on the top, and Samsung Galaxy Note 3 was sitting there almost for a year. But with the not tremendous Samsung Galaxy S5, the incredible but not enough HTC One M8, and with not a new Note device, the top pole position belongs to Sony Xperia Z2. Let's see why this phone rocks and let's compare it to all Android devices. Sony Xperia Z2 has a 5.2 inches triluminous display and it is 0.2 inches bigger than Sony Xperia Z1. As the display became bigger, the pixels per inch have fallen from 441 to 424, but at this level you won't notice the difference. The display is much better in Z2, this is what you can see naked eye. The display has greater resolution and the contrast is much better and the color fidelity too. Sony made a big step forward with Z2. Of course the competition is big, with great screens on devices like HTC One M8, Google Nexus 5, HTC One and all the 441 ppi devices. So here we have another great screen. Sony Xperia Z2 claims the first position on cameras with the 20.7 megapixel camera we have already checked on Sony Xperia Z1S and Sony Xperia Z1 Compact, and of course the previous version Sony Xperia Z1. The megapixels remain the same but technology advances, so the new camera is much better. The 20.5 megapixel Exmor RS sensor can now record 4K videos at 30 frames per second, and you can use digital zoom during video recording. What we like is the 120 FPS slow motion and background focus. They make your videos really cool, but these are extra effects. You can also use superior auto and take great pics and videos. Vine is pre-installed in the device to help you play with your videos. It's good Sony takes some features from the Handycam line as the steady shot. This is really a powerful camera phone and it is much better than Nokia PureView line, even if it has half its megapixels. Megapixels are not what makes cameras good, and Sony and also HTC with its dual 4 megapixel camera in HTC One M8 can prove that. The quad-core war is a war with a lot of participants. Sony Xperia Z2 uses the new Qualcomm Snapdragon 801 chipset, a new version of the already fast 800. The processor is clocked at 2.3 GHz and the device also has 3 GB of RAM. Except from the processor, the RAM plays a critical role in the speed as more and more apps are open. We shouldn't test the devices when they are new, but after a few months with Facebook, phone, pictures, camera, notes and a game running. Just 4 devices have 3 GB of RAM and Sony Xperia Z2 is one of them. Sony Xperia Z2 is one of the fastest devices according to benchmark tests, but you can find many more really fast devices on the market. We love big batteries, that's for sure. Sony Xperia Z2 has a 3200 mAh battery and some custom software to make it last longer. Note 3 and G Pro 2 have also a 3200 mAh battery, Samsung Galaxy S5 has a 2800 mAh battery and One M8 has a 2600 mAh battery. The biggest battery today is on Huawei Ascend Mate, which has a huge 4050 mAh battery. LG Z Flex has a 3500 battery, HTC One Max a 3300 battery, and Z2 is the only 5.2 inches device with such a big battery. Sony Xperia Z2 runs Android 4.4 KitKat, and we love that fact because we have more and more KitKat devices. LG Z Pro 2, Samsung Galaxy S5, HTC One M8 and of course Google Nexus 5 are the other KitKat devices with the latest Android version right from the start. Of course Sony has also some customizations that make the device easier to use. In the inside you have also 16 GB of memory to store photos and videos and also a micro SD card slot. Sony kept the same body as the previous model but added some stereo speakers, so the sound is much better. We love phones with bigger stereo speakers, but we also like the waterproofing body of Sony Xperia Z2. The body of Sony Xperia Z2 is thin, light and built out of a single slab of aluminium. The device has also a micro USB port which can output 4K video. Sony Xperia Z2 weighs 163 grams. It's not the lightest device as LG G2, which has the same screen size and weighs 143 grams, and Samsung Galaxy S5 with 145 grams. Sony Xperia Z2 is not the slimmest either, as the 8.2mm are fatter than Huawei's NP6 and even two other Sony devices like Sony Xperia Z Ultra and Sony Xperia T2 Ultra. Sony made it. It's the best device nowadays and it's far from the competition. Sony took the first position from Samsung and now we have to see the next note as Samsung Galaxy S5, HTC M8 and LG G Pro 2 are not threatening this device. Sony Xperia Z2 has a great screen, great camera lens and software, a lot of apps and customizations and wonderful unibody design. Sony Xperia Z2 is the best phone of the market, so you have a lot of reasons to buy that device.